coordinated committee of July the 20th with the general government section. For deputations, petitions, presentations, and public meetings, we have one. The Wasaga Beach Ministerial Food Bank. Mr. Jim Somerville will be in attendance on behalf of the Wasaga Beach Ministerial Food Bank in regards to reconsideration of Council's financial support for 2017. Good. If you'd like to join us, thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, and Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Councillors, just like to thank you for this opportunity. Normally I tell a joke, but I have a reputation for telling terrible jokes, so I'm not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead with the presentation. It's our Wasaga Beach Ministerial Food Bank, and we do appreciate your partnership. You have given support in the past, and we're humbly here to ask you to continue that support. Community in need. Together we provide assistance to almost 400 families. Actually, if you look at there is a handout there with the exact numbers in this area. It's comprised of approximately 1,400 men, women and children. Assistance for the vast majority of clients is only a 3-day allocation for food monthly. Increasing food costs, rents and less seasonal employment due to cool weather is resulting in increased demand. In the past 18 months, the average cost of food has increased almost 20%, with some categories like red meat going up 30%. Excuse me for a moment for not introducing Pastor Graham Gessler from the Faith Missionary Church. The churches in the area oversee the food bank operations. The actual operations themselves are run by what we call a leadership team, about 7 people. I am one of them. To continue here. Here we go. This is from the Stats Canadian hunger count for 2016. It's a little bit hard to read, but basically our stats that you have on the sheet of paper there reflect pretty accurately, percentage-wise, the stats that the hunger count for Canada put out. Our clients in Wasaga Beach, the greatest utilisation of food banks, seniors on fixed incomes or impacted by serious health issues, low wage earners, renting accommodation. Rent, as you know, is a big amount that they have to pay out each month. Families are also impacted by unemployment. Families or individuals impacted by health issues. Our current situation. Additional space is required, including washrooms, interview rooms, receiving and storage, to meet the increased need in our community. Currently, one small washroom and an interview room office are all that is available. Approximately 400 square feet. Our rent factor is $5 per square foot annually, plus HST and utilities. This is the current location tour. The one good thing about this location is that it's very visible for occasions whenever we have the radio station there and we have a drive-by, as we call it. Otherwise, there are a lot of issues with it. I think most of you have been around or been in it, so we'll just slip on by. Our improvement plan. We would like to have, working at having a larger, newer location with 500 square feet plus 1,000 square feet. Our rent factor is $6 per square foot annually, plus HST and utilities, and on a 5-year lease. Now this is actually pretty good because we've been in operation, as you know, for 11 years, and our rent has never increased in that time frame. I don't know if you know it or not, but up there where Shoppers is, there's that new building, and one of our members looked at the cost factor, and they're looking at $30 a square foot to rent those new that new location. This is the new location, which, as you know or may know, is the old Giant Tiger location beside the post office. 1,000 square foot, 60 parking spots, reception area, 2 client restrooms, and clients being the age they are and the way they are, certainly we have the one washroom that we have is in constant use for clients and for our 20 to 30 volunteers that we have quite often in the building. There's a lot of storage here. We'll be able to, if we get the new location, we'll be able to put up more shelving and store. We also have, in this location, we have a lift, which means that we can take from a truck, we can take the skid of food, say canned beans or whatever we order, and we order from a distributor, the same as the stores do. We can take it onto the lift, and there's a lift and take it downstairs, unpack it, whereas right now we have to hand bomb everything down and upstairs. This is our tour. It's hard to see again there, but we think that we know that the new location will give us what we need. Our major benefits are safety and reduced lifting, and a lot of our seniors can't lift anymore, or at least lift big loads, especially walking up and down stairs. We do have students come, especially in the evening when we're open, to earn their community service hours, and during the summer, and they are a great help. And by the way, if any of you have any children or grandchildren that need their community hours and have difficulty finding community hours, please come in and see us. We have usually lots of space for people, especially during the day, but in the evening too. And some of our students that have came, actually we can't get rid of them because they want to stay on and help out. Some have came at 16 and they're still here at 21, 22. So they do see the benefit of helping out. Improved capacity and workflow, 3 large restrooms, 1 for the volunteers, and the volunteers are quite happy about that because we're not always sure who's been in there before us. Some will actually bring in the covering for the toilet seat. 1 additional interview room, which is great. Improved parking, heating and cooling units maintained, repaired and replaced as required by the landlord. We have a good deal there. Cleaner, newer and pleasing environment, higher ceilings, upper and lower levels, and allows for the redevelopment of the current site. The initiative, the update. The Food Bank Committee working on all requirements, fixtures and positioning, colours, size and location of the interview rooms, etc. We have volunteers who are volunteering to remodel initiatives to be undertaken. New location will be painted in its entirety. 2 brand new interview rooms, offices constructed, all new storage, racking and carts. We have a pump up cart which will enable us to pump up a heavy skid, bring it in, bring it downstairs, so that's good. We've already received that. Electrical completed, for all refrigerators and freezers. We do need heavy duty outlets for some of our freezers. Front coffee preparation and rear work areas and counters installed. Additional funding, fundraising initiatives. I should mention about the second point from the bottom there. One of the great things that we're able to do is by having a coffee area and a preparation area and a coffee area for people to come in, it builds a great community. People are comfortable coming in. As you know, it's not very easy for some people to come in. Some people have had their husband or wife came in and gotten food, and it's taken 3 to 6 months for their spouse or friend to come in to feel at ease. So the coffee area and preparation area and the meeting area is very good, and many of us have made friends with a lot of the people. Yes. That's the short presentation. We made it short because we knew that you guys are used to long presentations, and now we spend about $144,000 a year. That's income that we've received from businesses, from the council and from individuals. Most of that is spent on food alone. Every month our food buyer will go out and buy about $6,000 worth of food for the food bank. This is over and above what we're given and what's brought into us each month, or we receive from food drives taken on by stores, individuals, businesses. We also get some food from the Ontario Food Bank Association. They get it from the supplier, from the manufacturers who have end runs or whatever they can't get rid of or don't want. Sometimes they put the wrong label on it, it's not in French, so they, rather than relabel it, they'll give it to us. They get it from large meat producers, meat packers, and they'll give it out on a proration basis. We all apply for it, and if it's our turn to get it or we haven't got it in a minute, we'll get it and we get it delivered. The only problem with that is, and this is another reason why we need cleaner premises, now and then we'll have to break up. We're allowed to break up some things like coffee and tea. So instead of giving one family one big jar of coffee, we'll break it up into smaller 3-day plus portions. And that is quite popular. Nobody ever refuses it. The other thing I should say, just so you know, you've all heard this before, is that most of our clients who are all of them live in the beach here. Most of them are not takers. For example, if you ever come in, you'll hear people saying, "No, I don't need what do you call it? Peanut butter. I don't need jam." So they will give it back and actually bring it back again sometimes. And as long as it's not open, we're okay with that. But the people are in need, very much so. They are your friends and neighbours. They are people who live here. And most of the time it's not because of something they've done. Occasionally we'll get someone who's just come out of jail because they have did something that they weren't supposed to do, but even they are appreciative of what they get and what they receive. But most of our people are people like the rest of us that just through no fault of their own, have fallen on hard times, bad times, or just don't have the income earning abilities that other people do. Did you have anything to add?
I'll just add that, again, part of what we're seeing too is people with mental health issues. As pastors, we do one shift a month just to be support to the volunteers and to help out. Usually I lug stuff up and downstairs. But the last 2 shifts that I've done, the last shift was talking with someone who just started living on their own mental health issue, came in with their social worker. Their social worker came and said they've been living on their own for the first time ever and they overspent their budget. And it was, well, we can be here to help and help provide from a grocery side and help provide from a food side. So there's hope for a person to sustain and have a viable foundation. The shift before that had another person also diagnosed with a mental health issue, and there was a mix-up with their medication, and they were not able to get their medication until the Monday. And this was, I was there on the Tuesday, so a whole week. But just a place to come and have people around to listen, to care, to provide something tangible, to say you're not alone. We see people just, they don't become desperate. They have a place where they can come and find something for either themselves or their family that helps get them through. And so there's just a tremendous value to the community and what the food bank is doing.
Thank you. Any
Are there
questions?
any, Madam
Sorry.
Chair, are there any questions from
I was
the
just going to ask if there are any questions from members of council. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. There's no doubt the positive impact that the food bank has on the community that needs it. And I thank you for the work that you do there. This is the first time I've heard about this building and any consideration to moving it. I know that there was discussion in the past about a location at 45th Street and a possible partnership there. You had said if you get the new location, you know, do you know rent amounts, do you know all of that? On our agenda here, it just said with regards to reconsideration of the financial support for 2017, but after seeing this, I'm just wondering what exactly is the ask and the reason for being here?
Well, we're asking for the for the full amount of the allocation that you have budgeted here at the town council. I believe we're getting, or you have committed 11,000. I'm not sure of this figure, but I think the budget allocation was 20,000. Now we have this new location. It's going to cost us about another $4,000 or $5,000 a month in this new location. Presently we're paying $472 at the moment. We have been paying that for the last 11 years. We haven't had an increase thanks to the landlord being on board with it. We really need to move one of these years. We have been looking for years. We've looked at the old Grace church, and we looked up there, well, 4 or 5 different places, but none of them were suitable. And anyway, we found this place with the help of a counsellor and with the help of other people, and it's going to cost us, as I say, around $30,000, depending on what our hydro costs are. As you can see here, you may not see it, but our hydro bill for last year, total last year, was $5,000. You don't have it, oh, you may have it here. It was $5,000. We're hoping that 30,000 will be reduced if we don't have higher hydro bills. A lot of our stuff some of our freezers are the older freezer, and they tend to consume more hydro than the newer ones we're hoping to purchase. We've been blessed by hydro in the town and other people buying newer freezers in the past, so we're hoping that we can do that again. We've also applied for grants, of course, from Ontario Food Bank Association. We're just putting one in today to buy a new freezer. But we do need new property.
So the reason for being here today is to add, I think you had requested $20,000 in
Yes.
2017. Council approved 11, whatever it was. So are you just asking for that extra amount
We're
for
asking for the full
freezers,
amount.
for a move, for, like, I think it needs to be very clear what the request is for, and I think council would need a lot more information about where exactly the money's going and what the overall goal is. Because like I said, this is the first time I kind of heard about this new location. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Blanchet?
I'm prepared to make a motion, but there were a couple other situations. I've been working pretty closely with the food bank for about 8 months now. Some of the situations that weren't mentioned is even when we were in there looking at some of the electrical requirements, the roof leaks continuously. We suspect there's mold situations in the existing location, which could pose a health issue even beyond the lifting. I know for a fact that the electrical alone in the move was $3,500 to run the appropriate electrical to the different units, and there's painting involved and racking involved, so we anticipate that probably the move alone would be in the $8,000 to $10,000 range. That's a one-time expense. So I would like to put forward a motion for 2017 to provide the food bank the full allocation of the $20,000 that was approved in the budget.
Are you working on a motion? Should we continue the discussion? We can obviously accept motions from the floor during a deputation.
So just for reference purposes, the procedural bylaw does speak to deputations and the process. So it states that except in cases involving established time constraints, no motion regarding any deputation not associated with another agenda item shall be presented at the same meeting at which the deputation occurs. And generally, upon the conclusion of a deputation, the submission would be received for information and referred to the appropriate committee or staff for review and report. So that's kind of the two sections of the procedural bylaw that relate to deputation.
Question.
Thank you. To our clerk, Councillor Stockwell.
Yeah. So does that mean that we could vote on this same motion come next Tuesday at council?
Well, my understanding is we can't make a motion during a deputation.
So, right.
Okay, sorry, didn't know that.
Unless, as it indicates in here, in cases involving established time constraints.
Right. So there is no time constraint to this. It's a 2017 grant that you were awarded that you'd like to see increased.
But the motion's not out of order.
Right. Yes,
that
it would be out of order because you can't accept a motion during a deputation.
Oh, I understand that, but at the end of the deputation, if he moves the motion, it's okay.
It's not on the agenda. We had that issue
So-
earlier.
so
How do you
then-
get it
then I
on the
ask my-
agenda?
Then I ask my first question. We would have to wait till next Wednesday and do it then. At council. Tuesday.
As a notice of
No, just
motion.
do it. It'll be on the agenda and you'll move the motion.
Deputy.
I guess I'll reiterate what I said before. I think before we just hand out money, I think we had a process. The food bank came forward, that's what was allocated. We went through the process here, council made that decision. I think before we jump into something on Tuesday, I think we need to have a lot more information as to exactly what it is we're assisting with. That would be expected of any group or anything that we do in town. And again, it's not because I don't think you do awesome things in the community, but we have a responsibility, and to just throw a motion out that we're gonna do something, I think we need to be able to say why.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna look to the CEO for some clarification. Maybe he can help, maybe he can't. But my understanding, as I look back through my memory here, is that the budget, we had an allocated amount in the budget for $20,000 or $24,000 for the food bank. And then through the grant process, everybody put down the amount they thought was fair to that particular, to the food bank, and we ended up coming up with a number of $11,800. And so that then became the new number that got put into the budget, I think, for 3 years. Am I correct in that? That's my first part of the question.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure if it's 3 years. I think it might be 2 years.
2 years.
Okay, but that's what happened. So there was 24,000 originally, that got reduced through the process of councils putting in an amount they felt was right to 11,800. So the 2-year amount is now 11,800. What I'm hearing is that the food bank, and correct me gentlemen if I'm wrong, is now saying, we appreciate that, thank you so much, but based on our financial situation and the need to move to a larger, more acceptable location and to be able to serve more people, we'd like you to reconsider that and give us the full amount that was originally put out there.
That would be correct.
That's correct, okay. So based on that, if I recall, when the first grant came forward, it was, of course, basically fairly vague in that the monies that we would be giving to the food bank would be used in order to run the food bank, whether it be to purchase food or pay hydro, whatever it was, to cover expenses, period. And so I'm seeing here today, as I read through this, I think maybe we're getting a little convoluted in the fact that, you know, are they looking for money to move? Are they looking for money for hydro? Are they looking money to carry on the operations? And my thought is that, for me personally, it doesn't matter whether they're using it for food or hydro or the move. The fact is they need the support and they need the money. And I have all the confidence in the world that the folks at the food bank are going to use these funds in a way that is going to be enhance the life of, again, some 1,400 plus people in our community. And so for me, it doesn't matter whether they're using it to buy shelving that they require or more food. At the end of the day, they're still going to continue to provide that service. So I would be more than happy to second a motion. I understand by the procedure today that isn't the case. So I guess my question is finally to the clerk, can this be put on for council on Tuesday, or does it need to go a month? And I don't think, if I may, Madam Chair, ask these gentlemen, are you desperate for the money immediately, or if it goes out and it takes a month to come to this?
No, the move that we're looking to do would likely be in the October area, and that's when the increased rent would start. So no, there's not a time constraint on we're saying we need it now, but there are additional costs that we're going to be experiencing over the next number of months related to the move, related to the new facility, so that within this fiscal year, that would be a great
So if
benefit.
we receive more information back and dealt with this, maybe not at this council, but at the following council, it's not going to make a big difference to you gentlemen.
That would be correct.
So then my point would be, let's get it on the agenda and proper procedure and deal with it that way.
Madam Chair and Mayor and Deputy Mayor, I must apologize for not, I assumed that you were aware that we were moving, and I apologize for that, for not making it more clear on the presentation. But we are moving, and we hope to move, and we hope that you can see your way clear to give us this little bit of money. Remember that we have gotten from the community last year alone $144,000, and we spent all but $4,500 of that, mostly on food. The one other item there, which we have no control over, we spent about $800 on paying to the Ontario Food Bank Association a membership fee for a computer program that they made compulsory. And if we don't become part of their computer program, then they will not give us any food. But the good news is that we figured out that we get more back from them than we pay out, so it's the good news. And the other thing is, with this computer program that they have, which is North America wide, I believe, is that the government and the town councils and everybody involved gets fairly recent information on what's happening to the food bank people, to the clients who need. For example, they can now look and say, oh, 1 month ago we had an upsurge in food in an area, and if they desire to do so, and if it becomes critical, then they know that in that area they need to pump more whatever services in there.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This has been something that's bothered me since the term of this council. I know the food bank, I was working with the previous group, had asked that instead of coming every year and asking for a grant, that it be a budgeted line item in the budget. How it got on went from the budgeted line item to all of a sudden us using the grant process has always bothered me, because it was a budgeted line item, and it was so that they wouldn't have to come back every year, that they would have this grant and know that the money was there. And so I don't know how that happened. I don't know why it happened, but when I approved the budget for the $20,000, I assumed that was going to be a continuing grant for the whole month, and they weren't going to be dividing up who wanted how much to go to them. So, you know, that's where I'm having an issue right now, is why they didn't get the full grant. Not the grant, the full amount that was budgeted for. Thank you.
And my comments were that it did go through the grant policy process and procedure. It's great that you're here. It's nice that we allow people to come back and ask if there is a need. I believe there's 2 food banks that operate in Wasaga Beach and provide to our families, so that if we're going to consider awarding money, I think we need to also look at St. Vincent de Paul to see what they're doing within our community and the number of families, because maybe the support, you know, maybe that budgeted item needs to go 2 different ways. So I think it's all helping people who need it. I know there's a great need, but I just like, as town council, that we cover our bases and we look at both food banks.
Very good point, Madam Chair. I do believe they have about 25 or 30 families on their rolls altogether.
And I'm not sure that they have the 3-day, so I think maybe there's a bit of double dipping perhaps, but anyways, I'd love to hear more. I've only heard unofficially.
Sorry,
and I would like to see
double dipping. What we do, for example, at Christmas hamper, we coordinate with St. Vincent de Paul the names of the people. Last year, for example, we had, I think, 2 people who came along and wanted to register for our hamper, and we said to them, you know that we have a policy that we ask you only to apply to one of the organisations here. And they said, well, whoa, we didn't know that. So then they had the choice either to go to St. Vincent or ours.
Yes.
And they picked whichever one had the most
And I
sensible.
certainly don't mean double dipping to get 2 hampers. I mean, if you're providing 3 days worth of food, there's 27 other days in the month that they have a need for food. So I think there probably is
Yes.
a need for multiple community groups, and I just wanted to
Great.
acknowledge that they're there and they haven't accessed their grant policy, but maybe there is a need there too. So that's all.
Yeah, they actually service 40 families, and it's by appointment only. They're not open. It's quite a small operation in comparison.
And I just like to see that included in the staff report. I don't know more than you do. I'm just looking for information.
Madam Chair, just to reiterate, I would ask the CAO if he could look up, because the purpose of the food bank coming and asking for the rent money was so they wouldn't have to come back every year. And I believe we moved that amount to the budgeted item, so they would not have to come back year after year. And how it ended up on the grant process, and I would like someone, would be the clerk or whatever, to look at the budget and find out what exactly happened and why that got moved to the grant allocation as opposed to a budgeted item. Because we approved the budget.
Councilor Belanger?
Yeah, well, the other explanation I'd like to know, and again, the grant, or not the grant, but the budgeted item was 24,000 last year and was reduced to 20,000 this year. And I can tell you the committee of the food bank was also confused by sort of what happened. So I had another thought there, but I'll take a moment, so.
I'll read the motion while you're thinking. Moved
No,
by.
sorry, just before you read the motion, I just remembered what it was. Like, so when we consider other grants, you know, whether it be a school or whatever else, is that going to staff for recommendation, or is that, like, why the difference? We've been treating it like a grant, and I'm not saying that's correct, but I don't think when a school asks for musical instruments that we're going back and asking for a recommendation from committee. This is a very large food bank that services the most vulnerable citizens within our community. It provides both economic and social impact, which is proven. And I just believe we're really overcomplicating this whole thing. We give more money to this to attract an event to our town.
So I will read the motion. Moved by Mayor Smith, seconded by Councillor Belanger. Resolved that the General Government Section of Coordinated Committee recommend to Council that the request from the Wasaga Beach Ministerial Food Bank be referred back to staff for review, report, and recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger.
Can we, after other motions, we've had comment. I raised the comment on the amendment. I don't understand why this is going to staff for a recommendation, why council can't make this decision based on other decisions we make related to these kind of.
Because procedurally, we can't make a motion during a deputation. We can make a
No.
motion to refer it to staff.
No, I understand that, but why don't we just refer it to the next available meeting as opposed to a recommendation by staff?
Probably because there was a request for additional information. Mayor Smith?
Thank you. I don't disagree with you, Councillor, but at the end of the day, someone, I think the deputy, if I'm not mistaken, has asked for more information. More information isn't going to hurt. It's still going to come to the next council meeting, either, if not this month, next month. The gentlemen aren't under any duress at this time. I think it gives more time for staff to look and perhaps speak to the gentleman to bring a more fulsome report forward so as that we can all understand it better and make an informed decision. And at that time, I'm assuming we'll be able to have discussion whether or not this goes back to a budget item, budget line item, or a grant item, because there is a distinct difference, in my opinion. I as well am confused as to how it got from a budget line item to a grant item. I know I voted on the amount. It was the full amount. That didn't happen, but I don't know how that happened. So perhaps we can have that discussion again then to get it back to a budgeted line item.
It's all inside baseball.
Probably called a
Okay.
vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilor Belanger.
In favor?
The Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor?
Councilor Ego.
In favor?
Councilor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councilor Stockwell.
Favor.
Chair Bray.
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
So we'll come back with a staff report and a recommendation. Thank you for your deputation.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your good work, gentlemen. Yeah, absolutely.
So there's one question. I'd rather have a regular annual.
I think it's 1,000 on one slide. Continue on, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. We got
Okay, so moving on with the agenda, unfinished business, we have none. Other agency reports, there are none. Consent agenda, all items listed below will be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of those items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. The agenda items that have been identified for separate vote are 6.4.1A, Report 7, Director of Economic Development and Tourism Community Hub. V10, 5, sorry, we must have hit a new letter there. Okay, now we're under B5, the Director of Legislative Services and Clerk, Legal Consultation Costs related to the Integrity Commissioner investigations. Item 6, under Section B, the Director of Legislative Services and Clerk Accessibility Advisory Committee for permit parking requests. Item 7, Director of Legislative Services and Clerk's Report on Historical Advisory Committee, the History Day Open House event. Item 8, Director of Legislative Services and Clerk Residential Parking Permits. Item 9, Communications Officer, Communication Strategy for the Downtown Plan.
I think I had that and I would pull it. It's fine.
There's 2 names there.
Okay.
And then the accounts. So with the exception of those number of items, there is a consent agenda that has been moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Councillor Ego. Resolved that the General Government Section of Coordinated Committee hereby receives the July 20th consent agenda, items 6.4.1 through to 6.4.3, and that the recommendations contained therein be adopted as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councilor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor?
Councilor Ego.
In favor.
Councilor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councilor Stockwell.
Favor.
Chair Bray.
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, so the first item to be pulled is the Director of Economic Development and Tourism's Community Hub Public Needs Assessment Report. This was pulled by Deputy Mayor Byfolchi and Councillor Smith.
Okay, and again, this is just one that I wanted to have a separate vote on. I don't agree with what is being recommended in the hub. I don't agree with an arena being built there and those things. I realize it's $110,000 to get more input on that, but it's just not something I support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, did you have any comments?
Mine wasn't concerning that, it was just more information on the community hub, because I'm supporting this motion. I think whatever we need to do to go forward, one of the, our goals and objectives, council, was to look for a new arena, and this is putting us on the track under our goals and objectives going forward, with the hub and having the arena part of that. I would really like to see this go forward.
Comments or questions? Okay, seeing no more. Moved by Councillor Ego, seconded by Councillor Stockwell. Resolved that the General Government Section of Coordinated Committee recommends to Council that staff proceed with the Community Hub Public Needs Assessment. Scope and work is outlined in this report at a cost not to exceed $110,000 exclusive of HST and expenses.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
Opposed?
Councillor Ego?
In favor.
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell?
Favor.
Chair Bray?
Opposed.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 5 in favor, 2 opposed.
Okay, the next item under administration is legal consultation costs related to Integrity Commissioner investigations. And I believe this was pulled by Mayor Smith.
It was, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as I read through this report, I see amounts that, perhaps we should be covering or not covering. I'm wondering if we shouldn't be looking at this, taking some more time to look at this a little more in depth. And with respect to an Integrity Commissioner investigation, I don't know why we'd be covering costs for anyone who is found in contravention of the Act. So if the Integrity Commissioner should rule that you broke the integrity or the Code of Conduct, thank you, Councillor, then just like a regular court of law, you wouldn't have your costs covered. And I think that on the other side, if there's costs to be covered, it clearly needs to be reasonable and stated clearly as to what that will be. And here it's 1 hour and then of course 2 hours. But
2 hours. They would potentially have had it for the initial hour at the beginning before the decision was made, but once that report is done by the Integrity Commissioner and if they are found to breach, they would not be eligible to receive that reimbursement.
if I may, supplementary, so my understanding from the report though is that no matter what, you'd be entitled to the first hour.
Right, the way it's worded currently.
Right, and my point is, if you're found in breach, then you're entitled to maybe 3 hours, but if you're not entitled to anything. If you're not found in breach, you're entitled to everything. I don't think we should be covering costs if someone is found in breach of the Code of Conduct, is my point, in any way, shape, or form.
So I think when you read that the first hour is before he's ruled.
Correct?
You don't know if you're in breach or not.
Correct?
So you are entitled to that hour or you're not?
I would say you're not. If you're found not in breach, then you get everything back. But if you're found in breach, you get nothing back, not the first hour, not the subsequent 2 hours or anything else.
And my only comment, is tying it into legal consultation for all council members. When we had a discussion with Michael Starr, he said that our policy was very outdated and that the whole legal policy for council needed to be updated. Should it be looked at as one? So not separate the Integrity Commissioner, but also look at legal counsel should we need it for any other reason. Because when we, Mayor Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't disagree with you, but I think I think they are two separate issues. I do recall Michael saying that we needed to look at that, and that needs to get done. But with respect to this and the Integrity Commissioner, again, I cannot support any monies being paid by the ratepayer if someone is found in breach of the conduct, Code of Conduct.
Yeah.
With respect to, Madam Chair, just with respect to your question, yes, the solicitor did make that comment, but that with respect to the overall indemnification policy, and in the indemnification policy, it outlines a role for the solicitor, and I think he identified that role for the solicitor as being somewhat redundant, and that was where the issue needs to be addressed. So that's something that certainly we will be addressing in the near future.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, and maybe Andrea can just confirm for me. So complaints go in to the Integrity Commissioner about members of council, but this also speaks to staff. So why is staff included in this as well?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was trying to remember.
So you'll notice in the top of page 2. So the policy does not apply to any expenses incurred by either a member of council or employee who is seeking legal advice prior to a formal complaint being filed. Now it does reference the fact of employees from the fact that if they were involved, it is the Code of Conduct for council, of course, but if an employee had put in, because there's the two parts, there's the accused and the person, or potential accused and the person who's making the complaint. So if they were the one that was making the complaint, and then the decision comes down, at that point, that particular person, if they were a staff person, would be eligible to receive up to 2 hours legal consultation following that decision of the Integrity Commissioner, or that report.
And
that's
And if that staff member submitted something and it was found that the member of council was not guilty, would that staff member be responsible to pay for their own then?
So, thank you. So currently there is nothing in there that would speak to that. At this point, it would be that the staff member would be eligible to receive costs for consultation and legals.
Even if their complaint was found to be not valid?
Correct. The way it's currently worded.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other comments, or are we ready to vote on the motion?
Well, if I could recommend an amendment to the motion, as per my comments, that if the member is found to be in contravention of the act, that no cost be covered.
Deputy Mayor Buckledge?
Thank you, and I would completely support that, but I think it needs to be flipped around as well, that if the staff member submits something against a council member and that council member is found to not be guilty, I don't see why the taxpayers would pay for that staff member to be complaining about members of council.
Good point. Mayor Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Except, I guess it's important to point out that I don't think staff have any other recourse with respect to how they deal with the situation with respect to council, and so I don't think staff would make a frivolous complaint. We know that the public does. But I'm sure that staff are not going to be out here making frivolous complaints unless they feel that they need to. So for me, it boils down to council versus staff versus the public are three very different things when it comes to the Integrity Commissioner, in my opinion. And in many cases, this may be the only option that the staff member may have to deal with the issue.
There was a hand over here, was there? No? Deputy Mayor?
And I would just like to be on record as saying I don't agree with that, so for those reasons I will have to vote against this. Thank you.
We were discussing a potential amendment, but it never
Sounds like
got
it's going just one
further,
way,
so.
So
Do we want an amendment, or do you just want to vote on it as is and?
I would like to suggest, I don't know, Madam Clerk, I'll look to you if that could be a friendly amendment, and leave it to the chair to ask the question.
I just have a question, I guess, and it sort of stems back to the fire department question. Like, I mean, there's a great deal involved. Like, for instance, I made a motion and found out that you're not going to make a motion. So, like, I mean, I think there's some judgment here. Like, I mean, even in the Integrity Commissioner, he seems to be pretty liberal in his interpretation, and so all I'm saying is, like 1 hour, maybe it should be on a second occasion. Maybe you should get 1 hour per year or something like that, and because this is really about if we have ongoing issues with things that are going on. So just a consideration in the amendment, like if you inadvertently were to and again, I don't know if there's minor infractions of code of conduct or more serious infractions of code of conduct, but maybe it should be just say that you're allowed 1 hour a year, and after that, if you're in breach of code of conduct, then you don't get anything.
Are you thinking, Madam Clerk?
Sorry. Thank you. So there's a couple of options for council. Should they wish, they could refer the matter back to staff for further review. We can make adjustments and bring it back. This would have to come to council in the form of a bylaw for approval anyway. So it could be that we're given direction to proceed, and then when it comes forward to council in the form of a policy with the bylaw, it could reflect that, the updates.
There's some-
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then I would move that we refer this back to staff for further information and bring it back.
I will second that motion.
Just a comment, if I may, Madam Chair. I don't feel it, I think what we're doing is putting staff in an awkward position because they may not come forward because they have financial issues or they don't have a good lawyer or what have you. And I don't think we should be letting staff take this the wrong way, meaning that they shouldn't look into something when it's valid that they should. So otherwise, I think if I was a staff person and told that, that I would feel thinking about whether or not I would go forward. And I don't think it's fair to staff.
I was just gonna say, when the staff report on this comes back, perhaps the steps that a staff member has before them could be included in. And we're hearing staff have no other option. They've got to go to the integrity commission, and you know they're going to be out of pocket. But there is other avenues, I believe, that steps that they can go through. So I think I'm just asking that that be included in the staff report.
Councillor, you go, madam.
What do I do?
So because it's not it's to the integrity commission. It's not how it works.
Amended? And then read that as amended, or no?
No, you refer it.
Okay, so we have a new resolution, moved by Mayor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ego. Be it resolved that the coordinated committee refer item 6.4.1B5 to staff for further review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi,
In favor?
Councillor Ego,
In favor?
Councillor Smith,
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell,
Favorite.
Mayor Smith,
In favor?
Chair Bray.
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
The next item is Accessibility Advisory Committee Permit Parking Request. This was put by Councillor Smith, I believe.
Yes, I just wanted to speak to this. I myself have found that parking from my husband has been very difficult. I appreciate there's new spots down there, but in order to access some of the businesses down there that, you know, there was no parking available, and for that reason, we couldn't park and enjoy the businesses down there. And I know where they're coming from, they're just asking for it, they're just asking for it through weekdays only, and I would support their request.
Councillor Smith, as a user of those parking spaces, would you consider making it a 7-day request? Because do we want our locals to be down at the beach on the weekend, or just
Yes.
Monday
Well,
to
that's the
Friday? 'Cause that
issue.
was my only concern when I read it, was why not Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Oh, I'd be
Because I
happy.
think if you have a handicap pass,
Yeah.
to have to park sometimes, you know, a long way away would prevent you from visiting.
That's what happened, so, so if you'd like, I can amend that, or it's just a recommendation right now. It's not in the form of a motion, I guess. Is there a motion regarding this?
Yeah, there is the second part. Do you want me to read the motion? Do you have a comment? Mayor
I
Smith?
have a question, Madam Chair.
Question.
I have a question through you to the Senior Municipal Law Enforcement Officer, if I may, Doug. What are other communities doing? The town of Collingwood, for example, very long Main Street. Are permits permitted there, or the town of Midland, or whatever, are they permitted to park anywhere at any time on the street, or have you looked into that?
Through Madam Chair, I have not. I've not been involved in this report. Unfortunately, I just haven't had the time. Some of my staff have given the clerk some of the information pertaining to it. We can look into that. I know personally some municipalities. We have a City of Toronto, for example. If you have a handicap permit, you park anywhere. You don't have to pay. Period. And that creates issues here for us when people come in and do that. We just have such a heavy demand for spaces, the limited spaces we have on the beachfront. that the previous accessibility committee had always maintained that they appreciate the parking being made available, but it was a problem to pay. Certainly if we give it away, like if we went with that policy for just a disabled pass holder, I don't even think the residents would get into those spaces. Because there's so many people that have those passes available to them now. And I think we've all been at Walmart and seen people park in those spaces and get out. And well, I can't speak to someone's disability, and I respect that there are other types of disabilities that people will get those permits for. Generally, it's the mobile challenged people that really need those because they need to be closest to the store. But I think they would be highly unused. But we can certainly look into what other municipalities have done and report back. We just are fairly unique in that, they're coming to the beach to use the beach, and that's where we're having issues is on Beach Drive and those areas there, going into parking.
Councillor Belanger.
Well, I'm just, and maybe I didn't read it careful enough, but, so what you're saying is that, the resident parking pass in combination with a handicap, designation to allow on Beach Drive 7 days a week.
Pretty well.
Okay. I think that's reasonable.
There were
Are
questions.
most resident passes on-street parking?
No.
No, none of them are.
So as an accessible parking pass, you would still have to pay for parking. That was my thought of this.
Yeah. People are prepared to pay for parking.
You're prepared to pay for parking, you're just getting the convenience of parking so you can actually reach your destination and not run out of energy before you get there.
Yeah.
Mayor Smith.
Thank you, and I'm glad you brought that up, Madam Chair, because I need to be clear on this now. So, if you have a resident parking pass, it's not for on-street parking. You can park there. If you have an accessibility sticker, park anywhere off-street, if you will, with that pass. What this is saying is that now if someone with an accessibility sticker
Blue
or
stickers, right.
placard
Yeah.
wants to park on-street, they can park anywhere they want, basically, but if they're parking on-street, they have to pay. And so, am I understanding that correctly?
That's a current, right?
Yeah, because it doesn't talk about, sorry.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
So sorry if this is causing confusion. So what the accessibility committee is requesting is that if you are have a resident parking pass, and you would be allowed to park on street in the barrier-free spaces only along Beach Drive, if you had a valid accessible permit, parking permit as well, and you wouldn't be incurring any costs for that.
So, if I may,
Okay, so it
Madam
is.
Chair, so it's not anywhere, it's in accessible spaces on street.
Right.
Okay,
Very
because
few
I'm,
spaces.
in the beginning here, I was getting that they could park anywhere.
No.
So it's only in accessible spaces, and so to Councillor Smith's point, there's not enough accessible spaces, and I don't think we'll ever have enough, because we would need 2 or 3 in front of every business, and that's just not practical, if you will. So, I just wanted to be clear on that. So, they could park on street with a residential permit parking pass, but it still has to be only in an accessible space, not just anywhere.
Right, provided they have the accessible parking permit.
Thank you.
All right, I will call
So,
the,
yeah.
any
Clear
more?
mud.
Oh,
Sorry, if I can.
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to know, so I think Bonnie you wanted the process of how to amend that include weekends, right?
Well, I wasn't, it was just Councillor Bray suggested maybe we should do this, they just wanted it on the, through the week, and situation I ran into was, we parked in front of Burger King, and there's one space, and that little mall, so I ended up parking in the regular space with my handicap sticker, hoping that nobody would complain that I was taking that spot for handicap parking, so.
So you're breaking the rules, hey, Councillor?
Well, it's just, I think it's more providing for on-street parking myself, but maybe we could get more information back from Andrea.
If I could just, thank you, Madam Chair, provide some information. So the reason that the committee recommended the wording the way that it is with respect to applying on the weekdays only is they didn't want to have an impact for the tourists coming in and having those spaces used through this process. So they felt that, you know, they were happy, they'd be very happy if it was able to apply during the weekdays, and they realized, and they were the ones that actually proposed this, the fact that it excluded weekends and statutory holidays from the accessibility committee. So you have that preference.
Thank you. Do you want me to read the motion as it is? Councillor Belanger?
Well, I would just say accessibility is that, you know, our own residents who are also tourists, like, I mean, I understand that tourists might come in and need handicap spaces too, but I mean, accessibility to those main events for our own residents, to exclude them, I don't know. I would probably support the 7 days, but again, I don't know.
If they're
when
only asking for 5, do we just grant them 5 and see how it goes this season?
Yeah.
Is that a fair?
Good
I will
idea.
read the question.
Yeah, good
Okay,
idea.
yeah.
Moved by Mayor Smith, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fulci. Resolved that the General Government section of Coordinated Committee recommend to Council the resident parking pass allow for parking at the on-street barrier-free parking spaces along Beach Drive for those residents that possess a valid accessible parking permit. And further, that this new option apply on weekdays only, excluding stat holidays starting in 2018. That's next year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Fulci,
In favor?
Councillor Eagle,
In favor?
Councillor Smith,
In favor.
Mayor Smith,
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell,
Favor.
Chair Bray.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. The next item, number 7, History Day Open House Event. I believe this was also pulled by Councillor Smith.
Yes. I just wanted to say how hard the historical committee has been working on this event, and that I've also wanted to thank them publicly for those signs that they got along the fence. I think they were beautifully done by the committee, and that their request for the budget be approved.
Thank you. No other comments or questions, I will read the motion. Moved by Mayor Smith, seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolved that the General Government Section and Coordinated Committee recommend to Council the Wasaga Way Back Then open house event to be hosted by the Historical Advisory Committee be approved. And further, that the event be held on September 30th at Marlwood Golf and Country Club between 11 and 4. And further, that Council authorize the committee to use $2,000 from its 2017 budget for the event. And further, that staff be directed to cover the costs associated with mailing approximately 250 invitations for the event, with funds coming from the administration budget. Mr. Scale.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Fulci,
In favor?
Councillor Eagle,
In favor?
Councillor Smith,
In favor?
Mayor Smith,
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell,
Favor.
Chair Bray. Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
The next item is item 8, residential parking permits. And this was pulled by Councillor Belanger and Councillor Smith. Do you wish to speak to?
My only comment was I could not recollect that we had ever made the decision for a single permit per household. I thought we had talked about 2, and but there were a lot of things discussed. At one point, there was one at the reduced rate and one at the previous year rate, I think $20 and $30. But I don't recall it ever being finalized that it was just 1 per household. But I'm just, I guess, throwing it out there for clarification.
Yeah, it is one. I have had complaints that it is one. I'm not sure where kind of this came forward, but certainly I have had residents with 2 cars or dogs or kids
Right.
and whatever that have. Any other comments or questions? Then sorry, Mayor Smith.
Yeah, and my understanding was slightly different. My understanding was that the first permit, there were still 2 permits. The first permit was reduced to $20, and the second permit would still remain $35. That was my understanding, but again, whether they're both 20, whether one's 20, one's 35, I think I'm hearing from a lot of people as well that, you know, why can't I still have 2 permits? I'll pay whatever you want me to pay, but give me the bloody permit. So I would suggest that we maybe make an amendment that a second permit be made available to the residents, and whether that's at 20 or at 35, it is what it is.
50.
I'd like to just ask Doug a question. What has the impact been, like on the reduction related to revenue? Like, I mean, obviously we might have sold more. Is it total more than last year? Or is it reducing the revenue of visitor parking because of residents utilizing areas? Like if we think a second permit at $20, because most people, it's just a case of you get in your car and you're 3 blocks away from home, and then you realize, oh gee, I got my permit in the other car. So I don't think it's a case that they're necessarily parking 2 vehicles anywhere at the same time. It's just a convenience thing which might drive additional revenue to the town.
To you, Madam Chair. So the first question about revenue, last year when this was brought forward, I anticipated with our annual year-over-year increase in demand, we would probably break even from last year's revenue, even with reducing it by $20. And I can report to council that we've already sold our 2,000 permits, and we've had to acquire another 500. We're still waiting, picking them up today. So we're not at a revenue loss. In committee last fall when this was discussed, there was in fact, I asked for clarification on one, a reduction to 1, because that was suggested, and because I need clear direction going forward. As a result of us investigating the actual motion that was passed, it wasn't clear that that was the intention. In that, at that time in the report, I indicated my estimate was about 2% of the residents were getting a second pass. So to issue a second pass, I don't think would have, it wouldn't be a lot of numbers of people asking for that. We have had a few, but our direction had been that we were down to 1 pass. On the second point, the utilization by residents and how it affects the other parking, at this point we can't give you an answer to that. This is the first year we're actually now monitoring every day the number of passes at a certain time of the day to start to give us a baseline to know. There are a lot of challenges this year where a lot of parking's been utilized by special events, or it's been free for different weekends. For example, the bike rally from last weekend, most of the lots were taken up by that event. So, but in the lot-by-lot basis, we are now trying to determine how many are being used by our passes, how many are being used by Honk Mobile, what the utilization rate is. So next year I can probably report with some accuracy.
Thank you, Chair. Just a subsequent question. So non-resident parking revenue so far this year is above last year, the same?
Actually, I can't speak to the revenue. I haven't seen any figures. I would suspect it's been a wet year, and just on the frequency with which we're emptying machines, I know that the cash coin revenue is down. I haven't seen reports. I haven't examined recent reports for the actual credit card revenue. I would say that our revenue is down slightly, I would think, at this point, just because of the wet.
So the motion that I'm about to read does limit to 1 permit per property. Is that what we would like to see happen?
Can I speak? Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that we're halfway through the summer, and I don't want, I'm thinking that this is something we should look at for next year, because we don't want confused messages out there at this point, and somebody saying, well, I got 2, and well, I was told I could only have 1. And I just think that to change it at this point in time might be confusing for some people. So.
Councillor Stockwell?
Well, we never did limit it to 1. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So how can you change it?
The bylaw I was looking for, I understand, is confirmation that we have limited it to 1.
Well, he
So-
says we didn't.
No.
Sorry, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So certainly there was a recommendation from staff that came forward in the report, and when I reviewed the recording, there was lots of discussion around the table.
But nothing
The motion that came out of that meeting did not specify the limit of 1 to 2, but I do, when I viewed it, our senior municipal law enforcement officer did ask for confirmation, is it limited to 1? And the direction was yes. So at that point, he proceeded, so the advertising and the way that we've ran it so far this year has been limited to 1 with the ability to transfer that. Now, based on Councillor Smith's comment, the recommendation that was passed back in October also spoke to the fact that the proposal was implemented for a 1-year trial period. So as suggested, if council wishes to remain status quo with the 1 permit and then can reconsider for 2018.
Mayor Smith?
Madam Chair, we could beat this horse all day long, I'm sure of that, but at the end of the day, I think, I agree with Councillor Smith. I mean, we're into almost, gosh, it's the 20th of July already. And this is going to come back to council to give us the information as to how it went anyway. Let's just wait for that report and adjust it then.
So the motion that we have today does recommend amendments to the current bylaw.
Which is going to come back
Which
at
is-
the end of this year with a report
So
how
can
it went,
we
so.
we defer this motion? Madam Clerk?
Thank you. So yes, the motion was prepared in 2 parts of the recommendation. The second part being that bylaw was never amended to reflect the limit of 1, which is what has been happening currently. So we were just trying to clean it up so that it's accurate. The first part of the motion just is giving would be providing staff with clarification that it is limited to 1, and then in this particular case, we can respond back to the individual who made the request and make them aware that that was the direction that was given. So that answered.
Okay. I will read the motion. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Stockwell, to resolve that the General Government Section of Coordinating Committee recommend to Council that it confirm that the residential parking permit be limited to 1 permit per property. And further, that staff be directed to prepare the necessary amendments to bylaw 2005-17, being the bylaw to establish rates and regulations for the parking of vehicles within the town of Wasaga Beach.
Madam Chair, just one question. So this is going to come back in a report at the end of this year, however, to council to let us know how this went, and at that point, if we wish to make an adjustment to it again, we can. Is that right?
Sorry.
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Yes. So the recommendation that was passed previously was that it was a trial 1-year period. So then the senior municipal law enforcement officer would bring forward a report for further direction.
I think it's time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Call for the, you've heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
Councillor Eagle?
In favor.
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell?
Favor.
Chair Bray?
Opposed?
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Okay.
Item number 9, communication strategy for the downtown master plan.
You got 2 minutes.
Thank you for joining us at the table.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So,
Would you like to speak to your report, or would you like to ask if there's questions?
Are there any questions?
I think I was the one
Byfolchi?
who pulled it, but I actually answered my own question while I was sitting
Good.
there, so.
That's it.
Well then, are there
Let's see
any
the second
questions
guy.
now that Mike is sitting here?
nice jacket.
Nice jacket. Nice tie. Nice
Just
tie.
for you guys.
Nice tie.
Seeing none, I will read the motion very quickly. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Mayor Smith, resolved that the General Government Section of Coordinating Committee receive the communication strategy for the downtown master plan for information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
Councillor Eagle?
In favor.
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell?
In favor.
Chair Bray?
In favor?
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in
Nice
favor, 0
report.
opposed.
Smooth cut.
Good report.
Yeah, I voted for that.
Thank you.
For a communication specialist, he doesn't say much.
Okay, the last item to be pulled from this agenda, sorry. Apparently it's the second last.
Oh.
Oh, that one got crossed off with my list. There we go. I just call it out. Okay, we are on the last motion. Accounts June 1st to 30th, 2017, and that was pulled by Deputy Mayor Bacci.
Thank you. I'm just looking for clarification. There's a check here or a EFT to Forak for billboard sign design for $5,650. And I'm just curious as to, the picture itself looks identical to the report that we paid $350,000 for. So I'm just curious as to why we paid for further design on that. Anybody knows the answer?
Mr. McNeil, you might.
Absolutely. So through you, Madam Chair, the image, the artist rendering is the same image, but in order to get it ready to be actually mounted on a board, there was substantial design work required. There's all kinds of graphics, etc. There were actually 4 designs prepared that staff went through to select the ones that were out there today. So there was substantial design work. It's nothing out of the ordinary. I will let you know that the billboard that's on Highway 26 close to Minising, a similar design cost went into the design preparation of that tourism billboard. So $2,500 per billboard for design services is quite normal.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. Moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Councillor Ego. Resolved that the June 1st to 30th, 2017 accounts as reviewed by General Government Services Section of Coordinated Committee are hereby confirmed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Bacci.
In favor?
Councillor Ego.
In favor?
Councillor Smith.
In favor?
Mayor Smith. In favor. Councillor Stockwell.
Favor.
Chair Brady. Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
There's other matters. There are none listed. Date of the next meeting, August 17th, 2017. Closed session as required. There is none today. 14th closed session, none today. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.